I'm Bishop David Evans. I want to talk to you about something that all of us feel either a low percentage or a high percentage of this particular emotion I'm going to talk to you about. And it's about loneliness, feeling alone. Now, I add feeling alone because sometimes we're not necessarily physically alone, but we feel alone. I don't know if you've ever felt kind of by yourself in a crowd. And today I'm not going to really get into whether that was someone else's fault or our fault because of the failure we have in our ability to relate to people. It's important we understand that we can't be an unfriendly person, but expect people to perceive us as being friendly and thereby creating our own sense of loneliness. We cannot expect people to take whatever we're putting down, and the only people we can call friends are friends that ignore who we really are. So that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about, especially during this season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, this feeling of being alone. I remember how in the Bible, Jesus has this same dilemma when he's at Calvary. Now, he knows God is the same yesterday and today and forevermore. But he also, in that moment of crisis on the cross, he says to God, "Why hast thou forsaken me?" Jesus felt lonely on the cross, separated from the guys on either side, separated from his disciples and his mom, separated from God. He felt like, I have nobody else. So why has this happened? In order to really navigate this season of feeling alone. Now, with me, I'm surrounded by a lot of people at church, but the sense of loneliness comes from the fact that my mom and my grandma are no longer here. So there's I have a contradictory emotion. It goes up and down. I can enjoy the holiday on one point, but on the other hand, I'm missing them with all my heart. So I get this sense of loneliness, even though I'm enjoying some of the holiday. So this loss contributes to me having a sense of loneliness, even in a festive situation, because in my life, those two people, mother and grandmother, are difficult. We're not trying to replace them, but it's difficult to fill in the gap where they were. So I find myself surrounded by thousands of people on Sundays and Wednesdays and people watching online and, counseling people and all, having a sense of loneliness within myself. Watch this, which is quite human. How do I know it's human? You name every major hero in the Bible. They all seem to have gone through a season where they felt isolated and lonely, but they all had the right reaction. They ultimately turned to God because he's the only one that can fill it. Now, how do you do it? You've got to pray. Because prayer is direct communication with God. You've got to kind of get this word in your heart. So when the feeling comes upon you, you can rely on this generational truth. This is how I do it. Sometimes, I was in a meeting last night. I confessed to the group that there are times when I don't feel like ministering. I don't feel like preaching, don't feel like teaching, don't feel like being bothered. And it comes from those days when I would rather not leave the house. Or if I came to church, watch how unrealistic this is, the phone wouldn't ring, somebody would knock on the door. Now that sounds a little nuts, but that's how that lonely thing will do. So I get those days when I'm missing the key people who have passed on in my life. And my reaction initially is to isolate myself. Now, here's the problem with isolating yourself. You compound your loneliness. Now, I told the group on Monday night when I was teaching pastors that the devil hides his game in either fun, conversation, a situation, or in something you're feeling. That the devil has a game. He'll hide it in conversation. He'll hide it in a feeling. So loneliness is natural, but it's not something we should not be able to overcome once we begin to think about, watch this, the positives that are happening around us, which will draw us out of that dark place called loneliness. Now, I call it a dark place because you kind of have to talk yourself into it. You wake up one day and then you just start telling yourself, I don't feel like leaving the house. I don't feel like getting dressed. I don't feel like washing. I don't feel like doing anything. Okay. So do you have to talk yourself into that place? I call it picking up a shovel, digging a hole, and throwing the dirt straight up in the air so it comes down and starts to bury you. So all of a sudden now you've talked yourself or felt yourself into loneliness. Now, this might help some of you. I hope it helps most of you. My first minister music, she saw that I was moody. And she realized, I think I was 26 years old at the time, and she realized that I did not know how to take control of my own moodiness. It's going to really help somebody. If it only helps one person, it's going to be good. So she said, I need you to connect the dots. I'm like, connect the dots to what? To why you're feeling like you're feeling right now. So I said, what do you mean? She said, I need you to go from this feeling back to whatever started that feeling. Woke up that feeling or resurrected that feeling. And in that moment, it's getting longer than I want to go, but I think it's going to be worth it. In that moment, I realized I had been driving from New York to get to choir rehearsal. And a song that I heard on the radio reminded me of a period of time that I had gone through. And from that moment, this emotion started to be built. I felt like I was lonely or alone. Now, mind you, I'd gone through an entire choir rehearsal, sang my parts. She helped me back, not to learn a song. She helped me back because she didn't like the look on my face. So she taught me that night to connect the dots. Why? Because as an adult, you cannot afford not to manage your emotions well. Secondly, you cannot afford for your emotions to negatively impact people around you who are not responsible for how you feel. But most of us, we feel a way, the whole world has to know it, has to suffer for it. We stop speaking to people, we start grunting at folk, all that silly stuff, because we won't connect the dots so we can manage the very emotion that we're having. And a lot of times it comes out of loneliness. Now, here's the irony of loneliness. I'm lonely. Someone will come around. I'll treat them in a way that they don't want to be around me to compound my own loneliness. It is the nuttiest thing I've ever seen in my life. So what do? Connect the dots. Connect the present feeling to whatever you've been through in the past. Sometimes it'll be a dream, a phone call, someone said a name, a conversation, but you need to know where it connects so you can, watch this, manage something, take control of something that all of us feel at one time or another. I hope this helped. Write me. Send me a video about how you overcame loneliness in your life, what you had to do it. Send the video to me after you connect the dots and say, wow, this works. Or if you're doing a little shy, write us. Write on the site. Let me know how you overcame loneliness with the help of the Lord. I'll see you soon.